Hey, what's going on guys? It's Turin here, and today guys I'm here with another Total War Warhammer online commentary. In this battle, I'm going to be playing the Vampire Counts led by Manfred von Karstein, and I'm going to be facing off against the Wood Elves. So definitely a really fun matchup. I like actually playing as the Wood Elves against the Vampire Counts because the Glade Guards just do so much. They do have the armor piercing, so they can do very, very well against Graveguard. On that same coin, they do have the fire damage against Cryptors, and they also are very effective at focusing down Mortis engines. So if I'm not mistaken, he does have some Glade Guards over there with the Starfire Shaft, so definitely in some good shape in that respect. But aside from that, I did pick Manfred von Karstein, and guys, I've been playing a lot with him lately, and he's by far probably my new favorite Vampire Lord. You know, I never really took into account like the Winds of Magic that he can get access to, but let's go ahead and take a look here real quick. We have a nice scenic shot of the Blood Knights in the background. So he does have Master of the Black Arts. So this is a 45-second cooldown with the duration of 20 seconds, and it essentially gives you a massive boost to both your reserves and your recharge rate, which again is really, really good since you're bringing 2 spells from Lore of Vampires, as well as a Spirit Leech from Lore of Death, because those are a lot of spells that you're going to be spamming quite a bit. So having that, you know, massive Winds of Magic reserve is quite strong. So on top of that, guys, he has this really cool item called the Sword of Unholy Power. So when you're engaged in melee, so when he's actually, you know, going fisticuffs there, you again get another buff to your recharge rate as well as your power reserve. So even if you're depleted and you re-engage Manfred, you actually get some Winds of Magic back, and in the fourth quarter that can really matter for getting that extra Invocation from the Heck off or Spirit Leech or something like that. It's very strong. And then on top of that, you also get life leeching. So one of you guys pointed this out in my previous videos that Lore of Death does have access to, again, another augmentation of your power reserve as well as your recharge rate. So Manfred, he's really cool if you want to use like a lot of magic. I was going to bring Winds of Death, but against the Wood Elves, like who bring trees and things like that, and they're obviously, you know, not obviously, but often they have these very like scattered wide formations. It's not going to be as good as like a blob formation like Bretonnia. Aside from that, I do have Stearnsman, 2 Graveguard in the front line. They're a pretty well-rounded pick. They're armored. They have shields. Granted, that's going to be very important against the missile fire of the Wood Elves. So they do have the silver shields, and they do have actually a real anti-infantry bonus. So some tooltips do say it. Excuse me. Some tooltips do say it, but they actually do have 8 themselves on top of that. So very good stuff. So actually, you do have 2 skeleton spears, just in case you decided to bring Wild Riders or things like that, but he actually didn't. So it was a bit of a misinvestment there. I do have some Cryptors in the back, the Claw of Nagash, and I actually decided to bring Blood Knights as well as Varix Reavers. So I actually don't use these guys often, but I know a lot of you guys wanted to see some diversified builds, especially with Vampire Counts. So I really like these guys. They have regeneration, so you don't need to invest Winds of Magic or Invocation from the Heck to top them off. They have an anti-infantry bonus. If I'm not mistaken, do they actually have one? It doesn't look like they have a true one, but they are armored and shielded, and they do have that regeneration. So very, very good for like, you know, going after Wood Elf missiles or even charging against like Wild Riders as long as you pull out right away. That's what she said. But you know, they're definitely pretty strong. So on top of that, I do have the Dire Pack and one more group of Dire Wolves in the back. For my opponent's army, he definitely has a pretty spooky army. He's got a front line of Wildwood Rangers. These guys actually, if like left unimpeded, can do very well and can cut through Graveguard very, very fast. So I like that pick there. Definitely a bit of a meta mind gaming going on. So he has a whole front line of Wildwood Rangers. On top of that, he has Eternal Guards kind of shoring up his flanks, which is going to be pretty good because Wildwood Rangers have also, they have good leadership. They're going to be very resilient against against Graveguard, and they'll also do well against Cryptors with their anti-large bonus. So I like these guys quite a bit. On top of that, he does have Big Papa Durthu with Flock of Doom, and he also has Lore of Life with Earthbloom. So pretty traditional there. I mean, most Wood Elf players are going to bring a combination of both, and against Vampire Counts, the Flock of Doom can be quite good. So in the back, he does have some Glade Guard Starfire Shafts going on here, and that's pretty much it. So a very like turtley army, and you know, I was kind of bummed out because usually I brought, you know, Blood Knights and a bunch of Cav and pretty much everything. It was kind of like a porcupine. It just had like shields and spears everywhere. So there wasn't really like any juicy spots for me to get in. So I'm gonna have to be really aggressive with my Dire Pack and my Varix Reavers as well as my Blood Knights and try and find an opening here to, you know, really take it home because his front line's very scary. I mean, he outnumbers me quite a bit. He has Wildwood Rangers like all across the front line. It looks like he has 5 of them against like, you know, what is it, 3 Graveguard in the front. So he definitely has the potential to really crack me there. So I'm going to have to be really on top of my game. So right now I'm just advancing on my opponent. You know, he kind of like ran over to the edge right here. It looks like he was just trying to get a little bit of a better slope, I think. Because if you look here on the terrain, it'll be, you know, a nice little angle, whereas this is like a perfectly level, flat ground. And this also like takes away room behind his army. So if he was like over here, I could then like scurry up and around here. I could go up and around this side. But here there's like less angles to really like kind of collapse on him from. But regardless, we'll go ahead and fast forward a little bit just as we get ready to posture. So my main force is advancing, and he actually decides to advance on me. So I just get the Varix Reavers, and I'm like, why not just charge in here and just kind of rattle them a little bit, or at least try to, because the Varix Reavers, again, they have a decent charge bonus of 58, and even if I take a little bit of damage, they do have regeneration. So I get in here, I get a little bit of a charge, but it looks like he does react. I was hoping he wouldn't notice until the last second, but the Varix Reavers do charge in there. They get a nice little lance here on some of these Wood Elves, and guys, these guys, the Wildwood Rangers, though, they are very like elite infantry. They're also very lightly armored, so I'm able to get a nice little bit of burst damage, and you can see as soon as I do that, I immediately path out. Granted, I'm still probably going to take some losses. It looks like 45 models. I actually didn't take any HP, and you can see they're riding those guys over as they leave. So the Varix Reaver is a very cool unit. Like, I like them quite a bit. Look forward to using them more. So my opponent is focusing me very aggressively with these Glade Guards, going after some of these Cryptors here, and I do engage my front line. You can see MANNFRED is fighting Big Papa Durthu, and I immediately do summon some zombies back here. So I knew I didn't have any way of like getting to his missiles. You can see in the back he was zoning me out really well with the Eternal Guards. I wasn't able to get in. So I start summoning zombies in the back line, and then I'm going to be pathing them through after his missiles. And you can see the zombies here just pushing forward, and he will intercept them with the Eternal Guards, but it's still kind of congesting these missiles and allowing me more time to really thrive. He does pull Durthu in here, and Durthu overextends a little bit, so the Blood Knights are coming in pretty hot. They're going to run into some Wildwood Rangers, which isn't great, but Blood Knights have very high damage, so they should even actually, be able to trade somewhat efficiently with Wildwood Rangers. So in here, Durthu is kind of surrounded a little bit, and also the Spellslinger with the Lore of Life, I actually focused her really aggressively with my Blood Knights and the Dire Pack and the Stearnsmen, and then I'm also using Spirit Leech. So having Spirit Leech was such a big tool. I was able to shut down his healing very, very early in the game, and I was very happy about that. So you can see I do get another group of zombies over here. They're kind of pushing back to the missiles. And this group, these guys are kind of a little bit obstructed right now because the zombies were able to kind of collapse in them. So the Varix Reavers, I did pull back, but they will be periodically cycle charging over here once I do pay attention. And my opponent does use a nice Flock of Doom, but I do immediately use an Invocation of Nehek, like right when he does that. So that was definitely pretty good. You can see the Varix Reavers coming in pretty hot here. They're going to get another nice little charge and lance through my formations. That was actually pretty cool that they got in there. And you can see doing some pretty devastating damage because Wildwood Rangers only have 40 armor. So against like Varix Reavers, like the Varix Reavers will do well. Now, if I left them in sustained combat versus these guys, it would be a very, very bad time. Because those Wildwood Rangers were kicking the shit out of my Graveguard here. But over here in the back line, you can see I'm continuing to try and find a home with these hounds. But my opponent very, very good with using the spears. And you can see he's pulling back his Glade Guards here. But now that the zombies have occupied a lot of these guys, it does leave a little bit of an opening. You can see the Direwolves are going to collapse on these guys right now and should be able to get in there. I'm not sure if I was like pulling them up and around. I might have actually missed that. But now the back is open. So those Direwolves can eventually get in and do their thing. Over here you can see Big Papa Durthu is a little bit surrounded. So he got a little bit overzealous. A nice Flock of Doom here. But the Blood Knights and the Mortis Engine and Big Papa MANNFRED are in there doing their thing. And you can see the Varix Reavers are, of course, over here on the wings, just continuing to harass my opponent's troops. And you can see the Direwolves tried to get in there. I actually mismarked them a little bit. I was so busy in the front line. But the zombies are just kind of like sandwiching these guys. So he's having to make the choice. Does he deal with the zombies or does he deal with the Direwolves? So it looks like he decides to leave these guys to fight the zombies and zone off the Direwolves, which is definitely a good choice. So the missiles in the back line being pressured very aggressively. And this Death Star here is definitely very, very scary. The Claw of Nagash and MANNFRED is just going absolutely ham. That Spirit Leech, I was able to actually kill his caster, which is really nice. Granted, the caster probably should have been sitting back here, like, or maybe in the further back in the formation, because in the front it was able to get surrounded by Blood Knights and other units like that, and then essentially he wasn't able to get the heals off that effectively because the Blood Knights were lancing a very, very squishy caster and doing very, very well for me. So over here you can see the Varix Reavers, and now that the Direwolves collapse on this side, the Varix Reavers then come in and sandwich them from this side and are able to get a pretty devastating charge and actually break these Glade Guards as well as do some pretty good damage to these Wildwood Rangers. I gotta get that down. So these Varix Reavers actually have 46 kills, which isn't bad considering like how many spears and different things like that he has. And let's actually take a look. So they are regenerating and they're not near their cap. So, I mean, they can heal up quite a bit, guys, which is really, really nice. So the Claw of Nagash, the Mortis Engine, is taking a little bit of focus fire. So I do kind of circle it up and around here. And now that I felt I had this battle pretty won here, I actually pulled the Blood Knights out, and not the battle as an overarching sense, but, this particular engagement. I used MANNFRED and I summoned some zombies, and then I just pulled the Blood Knights through and just kind of use these zombies to kind of congest his defenses right here. And then the Blood Knights are going to come in the back and just absolutely skewer these guys. So you can see they're going flying. Always feels good to take out Elves. And the Blood Knights just look so incredibly cool. Just look how pissed off that dude is. So he's getting in there. His eyes are all red. Definitely some bloodthirst going on. And we are chasing these guys down. So the Glade Guard are shaken. Their Lord is dead. He does pull in some Eternal Guards, but it might be too little too late. And you can see the Varix Reavers coming in pretty hot here, and those Eternal Guards actually weren't braced for that. So they do a pretty good job running those guys down, and they actually do lead them to waver and then break. So at that point, looks like everything shattered, and that was all she wrote for the Wood Elves. So let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown here. So I really liked his build, actually. It was pretty cool. I think the one reason that the battle went so poorly for him was because Durthu and the Spellslinger really got like over aggressive. He had like one group of Eternal Guards there, or Wild Riders, but the Wild Riders kind of crumbled relatively quickly there against like the Mortis Engine drain and the Stearnsmen that were sitting there. So when they kind of broke and dispersed, that left the Spellslinger with the Lure of Life as well as Big Papa Durthu all alone. And then MANNFRED with the Spirit Leech was able to really just nuke his caster, and then of course the zombie summons behind the front line were able to do really, really good stuff. So anyways, well played to my opponent Spaniard. I look forward to seeing you again on ladder, and I hope you guys enjoyed that MANNFRED cast. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you guys all next time.